Welcome to Upload, the show where we take our collective consciousness and upload it to your mind. We have, of course, the one, the only Bobby Del Rio, Mr. Todd Van Allen.
I'm the white guy.
Lewis, the black dude Taylor.
Is this gallery view? I'm not quite sure.
Finally, for the first time ever on Upload, an actual woman, a female, has joined us. The one, the only, Sharon Lewis.
You guys talk too much. You guys talk way too much.
Like way too much.
I was not informed of this edition because I thought this was a meeting of the He-Man Woman Haters Club.
Yeah, remember? I sign.
No idea what you two are talking about.
Dude.
Once again.
I feel like that's a white thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Andrew, we've decided Andrew and Todd share the same racial.
No.
It's the white guy on this show.
As a matter of fact,
it's such a white thing that it's actually can't be a black thing anymore because of all people, Bill Cosby yanked it from the air.
yes, that's
so that's
right.
where we are.
That's right.
The savior of all
started.
good and wholesome.
So
Still don't know what you're talking about.
we're going to do a few stories today. First story we're looking at is Mr. John Boehner. Yes, that's right. Mr. John Boehner, former Republican Speaker of the House, is now a speaker for pot. He's a pot pitchman. And one of the challenges that is happening is in America, of course, there are certain states that have legalized pot, and there's now a big business happening. It's like $18 billion. I think there's a Canadian company called Canopy that's sort of buying up all these American companies, and so there are these there are these companies starting up in America, but there seems to be a racial disparity, so that the pot companies created by Black Americans and African Americans are nowhere near as successful as the ones created by white Americans. Would anyone like to speak to this, Lewis?
Can I correct this though? It's not being more successful. It's actually getting licenses.
Yeah.
So very few black or brown companies are getting any of the licenses that are spreading around. But I think we should also talk about Boehner's stance and the malleability of the political mind in the States. I mean, this is a guy that was a drug war warrior, but once it becomes profitable for him, switches on a dime.
See, to me, this is like the perfect example of systemic racism, right? So licenses aside, you know, business is conducted through networks. And, you know, I've often lamented that in the film industry, it often appears to me like there are two industries, right? It's like, because I seem to know all the multicultural artists in the industry, and then there are all these Caucasian colleagues, I guess, that I've never met in my life, and I've been around for 20 years. And you start to realize that communities are conducting business within their own enclaves. And I think this is an example of that, right? Is that if you have access to the rich people, if you have access to the powerful people, if you have access to the people who can take your business, whatever your business, and in this case now be marijuana, I mean, it just seems so arbitrary, and yet it's the same patterns again and again and again with regard to wealth and race.
I think it goes even further back. I mean, it's an old school word, right? Imperialism. It goes back to when, you know, when I was in Jamaica, one of the places that I went to in Jamaica, my cousin took me, you had to stand at the bottom of the hill, and there was a guy in a moped with a gun, and, you know, you chatted to him. Then he drove you up the hill. This was in the 90s. He drove you up the hill, and once you got to the top of the hill, there was marijuana fields for days. There was a plane that, you know, flew the marijuana out of there, and there was a hospital, a school, a shop. It was like I had hit Valhalla. It was absolutely beautiful. People were fed while taking care of all of that. What happened was cocaine came into the island and busted all of that out. But the reason I bring that up is the actual definition of what is an okay drug to take, what is okay to participate in, is the same history that alcohol had, right? It was only once it was profitable, and it was only once it was in the hands of of the imperialists, I'll use an old school word, then it became okay. And it's the same thing with marijuana. So we have to trace it all the way from back there, that Black and brown people, anything that we start or engage in starts already at a lower level. And this just continues that. So there's no way that Black or brown people could be selling marijuana for medical purposes or for a higher purpose unless it's white people who are doing it. And we were sort of joking just before, you know, as filmmakers, when we pitch, we often have to have a white person in front of us in order to be seen as legitimate. And this is the same thing. It's perpetuating the same thing. I mean, thank God we have a white person, and maybe Tom, you could speak for me.
Tom. Go, Tom.
Oh, goodness me. Oh, I love it because admittedly, we all do look the same. Todd here, Sharon. Pleasure to meet you. I would also like to welcome all of the people who are going to be emailing us right now on this episode, looking for the GPS coordinates for that place in Jamaica. Thank you so much. They're going to be looking that up.
Yeah.
What I also love about this, and this is it's symptomatic across sort of all political divides. I'm going to say it, but I would say it is most prevalent and most observational in the conservative end of things, where we will go against everything that we don't care for, that is amoral in our eyes, and against everything that we believe in. But then as soon as we are out of any position of authority and can make a dime off of it, I'm in. And it just shows sort of like the weakness of this entire of Boner himself, that he doesn't even have
Can you say that
principles within
again?
that.
Can you say that again? Of who?
Of Boner? Boner, you know, that dick.
Sorry.
That dick. We he has no thing, and like I will even throw this out to, like, I know people who are like dead set against the marijuana laws, and this, you know, shouldn't be legalized, shouldn't have anything like this. And then you look at their RRSP portfolio and their mutual funds, and it's half marijuana. So I'm like, oh, I assume you're going to divest that. Oh shit, no, I'm making a ton of cash. Fuck you. So,
well, I would add to that, like let's say in some magical world that Michael Manley came back to be the Prime Minister of Jamaica, and let's say he said, you know what, we're going to take over marijuana, we're going to legalize it, we're going to make money from it. And they started, you know, making it legal, and they started, you know, funneling all that money into healthcare and education. If he did that, the IMF would shut that country down.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up, Andrew,
Yeah.
because the IMF came into Jamaica in the 90s and forced them to shut down all kinds of enterprises and gave them all kinds of strict monetary policies that didn't allow Jamaica to be independent, which is why so much capital, you know, flew out of there. But Manley knew about those. He knew about the marijuana fields. It was actually helping the Jamaican economy. They couldn't legalize it because, you know, of course, the United States was coming and shut them down. But I think that was an undercurrent economy that was running in the Caribbean.